What is this next frontier of diversity and inclusion? And we feel that it is to focus on class and people who are the first. And when I say the first, I mean people who are pioneers in their family. We've defined a first generation professional as someone who is one of the first in their immediate family to enter into the professional workplace, meaning that their parents either held traditional blue-collar positions or working class positions that didn't require a college degree. If we endeavor to have a workforce that's representative of the diverse American population we serve and is drawn from all sections, don't we want to make sure that we don't impede opportunities for people who come from lower income backgrounds to be in this workforce, to lend their knowledge of the communities that we serve? Class transcends all diversity dimensions. Race, gender, national origin, religion, it transcends all of that.
Now draw on your background as a strength and leverage that grit, loyalty, and flexibility instilled in you by your parents, and empower yourself to realize your full potential.
Coming from a first-generation, low-income background, I faced challenges with navigating school resources, feeling supported, and adjusting to social life on campus. In academic settings and extracurriculars I am involved with, it can be hard to relate to many of my peers who have the connections and networks that I just don't have.
Having to balance work and school helped me develop a strong work ethic and a determination to succeed. I learned time management skills and how to develop my social networks.
And I think first generation professionals should be proud that they are trailblazers. You know, they come from hardworking families and they're expanding into this area of occupations that others in their family have not done. But we know that if we really believe in diversity and inclusion, and we want people with different backgrounds and thoughts and perspectives, that's the exact mix we need. Because if you don't have tension in the workplace, you don't get creativity and innovation. But what I want all first generation professionals to know, and those people who are allies to them and in their corner, is that we should not be judged by the heights we have risen, but from the depths we have climbed. And that's Frederick Douglass. Throughout your life, there will be a number of people who will doubt you, but you do not get to be one of those people. This is just the beginning of the journey. This is just starting the conversation.
Welcome moderator and architect of the First Generation Professional Summit, Tinisha Agramonte, Director of the Office of Civil Rights.
Y'all making FGP feel good this morning. Good morning and welcome to the first ever First Generation Professional Summit in the federal government. I am so excited to see everyone, and I'm so incredibly overwhelmed at the reception of this initiative. I also am extremely grateful for the support that I have received from my mentees, from my mentors, from my peers, from senior leadership, family members, and friends. Thank you. And I want to thank Deputy Secretary Kelly for her very thoughtful and heartfelt remarks. I appreciate all of you and everything that you're doing to support this initiative. I want to also give a huge thank you to all of you for thinking this initiative was important enough to join us today. Thank you. So anyone who knows me knows I've never relied on talking remarks, but because this is being recorded, I wanted to make sure that I got everything right, but I'm gonna break away from my talking remarks and speak extemporaneously for just a second. Who knew we'd be here today? Who knew that we would have 500 people registered for this and 100 people on the wait list. And I have to tell you, we turned away so many people. And I wish I would have just said, you know what, everybody just show up and we'll figure out where to put you, right? But let me tell you quickly, I remember the first time I uttered the words first generation professional. And I remember the first time that I tried to sell this concept to my peers. We were in a meeting and I did this big old spiel, and these looks were like deer in a headlight look. And I knew immediately something was wrong. It was an epic failure. And I remember walking out of that meeting, and one of my colleagues, I won't name him, but he's in this room today, he'll know I'm talking about him. He looked at me and he goes, Tinisha, I don't get it. I don't know what you're talking about. Who are these people that you're talking about? And how many are there? And what do you expect to accomplish with this initiative? And I have to tell you, I didn't have the answer at that time. But I thank him for his constructive feedback, because if anybody knows me, what you know is I was going to get those answers, right? And what I really appreciate about that colleague is that he turned around when he saw how dejected I looked, and he said, but you know what, Tinisha? I trust you. I got faith in you. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to support you. And that's all it takes sometimes. Just someone who believes in you and someone who stands to support you. So because we might get close to the end and I don't get an opportunity to do this, I'm going to do it right now. This journey began because there were 12 critical people who heard my vision, and even though they may not have fully understood it or knew what I was trying to create, they said, we got your back. And they met with me weekly on phone calls. I want those people to stand up in the audience because I want you to acknowledge them and give them a round of applause, because we would not be here without them. So if you're here, Demisha, I'm looking right at you. Stacy, come on, stand up. So I'm just going to jump to, we now have the answers, right? So when someone asks me now, what people are you talking about? I can say we're talking about first generation professionals, and we have a definition for those FGPs. If they ask me how many are there, I'll say, well, according to our research, all the research we've looked at says nearly a third of undergraduate students in the United States are first-generation college students. Those are students defined as those who have no parents with a bachelor's degree. So even if we just were to look at the number of first-generation professionals in our workforce who have a degree, not even counting the first-generation professionals on the continuum who do not, we know that at least 1 in 3 employees in our workforce may be a first-generation professional. Why should we have an initiative focused on this? I'll give you a few little quick stats. In a Harvard Business Review article, 97% of individuals from working class backgrounds reported that their social class background affected their work experience. In a report by our own U.S. Census Bureau, which is a report that was commissioned by my office, FGPs of all years of experience felt that they could benefit from a program to reduce barriers. In another article titled, "A College Degree is Worth Less If You Are Raised Poor," a Brookings study found that those from low-income backgrounds initially earn 80% as much as those from a higher income background, dropping to 70% by mid-career. That's just a small sample of the research data we collected that supports the need for this initiative. But equally important, improving the inclusion of FGPs in our workforce is a mission imperative. Recently, I was talking to someone about first-generation college students, and they pointed me to an article, and in this article, someone said something, a speaker, that resonated with me so much. He told the first-generation college students, he said, if your voice is not part of the conversation, then the conversation is weak. That's the way I feel about FGPs. If they are not part of our workforce and we don't have that representation of the diverse socioeconomic spectrum that exists in America, then that voice, that conversation is weakened, because we will then impede our ability to give products and services to all Americans because we are lacking that insight. So today, wait a minute. So finally, why should we have an initiative that helps foster inclusion for FGPs? This is like one of the most important pieces that I almost forgot, because we believe in the principle of the American dream. In 1931, James Truslow Adams wrote, "Life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to their ability or achievement, regardless of social class or circumstances of birth." We believe that humble beginnings and life circumstances should not limit anyone to go as far as their talents will take them. So today is all about illuminating the stories of FGPs, understanding their challenges, and celebrating their triumphs, raising awareness and starting the conversation on how we can be more inclusive of FGPs through the entire career life cycle, from recruitment to retirement. Now, we don't have all the answers yet, but we are starting the conversation to find them. And I know without a doubt that if we leverage the collective wisdom that we have in this room, if you join this journey, if you join the conversation, together we can make sure that all our employees have the opportunity to achieve the American dream. That was the end. That's the time for the applause. Sometimes you just got to give prompts, right? But I know you guys were so caught up in what I was saying. You're like, yes, yes. So, to start us off, we have an incredible featured speaker today. Ruky Tijani is here with us. I'm going to read a little bit about Ruky's bio. It's actually in your booklet. She's an attorney, a speaker, a diversity consultant, and she is the founder of the First Generation Purpose Project. The First Generation Purpose Project is an initiative designed to help first-generation professionals successfully navigate life and careers by utilizing the grit and tenacity that's already in them. And I'm gonna stop there because it's important for you to know how she got here today. So, as my group of 12, and we were researching and we was trying to figure out, what are we even doing? What is the framework? Like, even after we define first-generation professionals, what are the next steps? What are we gonna do with this, right? At some point, we said, way in the future, we're gonna have some kind of summit, right? And at that summit, we have to bring in some dynamic speakers, and we have to focus and feature some of our FGPs in our workforce. Well, as we're looking through the internet, I find Ruky. And I started reading about Ruky's journey. And when I tell you she hit on everything that we had heard from first-generation professionals, the imposter syndrome, survivor's guilt by being the first in her family to enter into the professional workforce and move in the socioeconomic stratus, and what that meant to see her family still in a different bracket, what that meant to go into a law firm after graduating and seeing women wearing $300 pair of shoes, knowing her mom still lived in the projects in Brooklyn, and managing that whole feeling of, do I belong here? Have I earned the right to be here with other people? And I said, we got to get her. So I reached out to her, and I was so elated when she accepted our invitation to come speak today. And I'm so excited for you to hear about her journey. So with that, Ruky.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Tanisha's already gonna make me cry. I'm already here tearing. First of all, I just wanna say, can we give a round of applause to Miss Tinisha? Because she is truly an architect in every sense of the word. She's a trailblazer. She's a first-gen rock star, as I like to call first-gen professionals, and I really thank you for this amazing opportunity. So, my name is Ruky Tijani, or Rukayatu Tijani, and I am the founder and creator of the First Generation Purpose Project, which is an amazing initiative and organization designed to help first-generation professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives, doers, thinkers successfully navigate life and career by utilizing the grit and tenacity that's already in us. And Tanisha touched a little bit upon my story, and I want to talk a little bit about what prompted me to start the First Generation Purpose Project. And it really started in November 2016. So in November 2016, I was in the second year of a really prestigious federal clerkship. And a federal clerkship is just a fancy name for saying I'm a ghostwriter for a judge. And I was in the Eastern District of California working for an Obama-appointed federal judge. And just 2 years prior to that, I graduated from an amazing law school, a top 10 law school. And by that point, I had already worked in a top 20 law firm. So by all accounts, at the very least, on the outside looking in, I was well on my way to success. I looked the part, I acted the part, I said what I had to say, I dressed like the young attorney. But inside, I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I had imposter syndrome on 100 every day. And what I came to realize is that that feeling was really attributed to a lot of the sentiment that I now know is common amongst first-generation professionals. You see, I was the first in my family to navigate such a space of privilege and prestige. And with that came difficulties, not necessarily knowing what I didn't know, not necessarily knowing how to navigate the spaces, not necessarily knowing the politics and the unwritten rules. Can anybody connect with me? If you can, raise your hand. Okay, good. So I'm talking to my people. Okay, cool. And not necessarily understanding how I could say that to my mom, who's Nigerian and so proud that her daughter is a lawyer. She would tell everybody in the supermarket, even if they, I remember being on the phone one day with my mom, and she was, in Pathmark or in the supermarket, and she's like, hello? And I'm like, hey, Mom, how are you? And she's like, that's my daughter. She's a lawyer. I need you to know she's a lawyer. And she's like, so how are you? And I'm like, okay. So my mom was super excited about the fact that I made it, right? So talking to her about all the difficulties and the challenges that I was undergoing was just not necessarily the thing that I could communicate to her. Then in addition to that, there was the seeming vacillation between the world that I was currently navigating and the world that I was still from. You see, I'm from the projects of Brooklyn, New York. And I love it, and I say it to everyone I can. A proud member of the projects of Brooklyn, New York, where when I grew up, thank you. When I grew up, if I'm being honest, there was needles on the staircase and there was pee in the elevators. And to some extent, I was still tethered to that because even though I graduated from law school and went into spaces that had marble floors and beautiful chairs and amazing ceilings and so much historical decorum and interior decorating, I still had a connection to the projects of Brooklyn, New York, but I didn't necessarily know what my identity meant when vacillating both of these spaces. So that was another issue. And then the third issue, and this is something that I don't think a lot of first-gen professionals like to talk about, was the financial boundaries that I just couldn't draw. When I graduated from law school, I stepped right out of law school into an amazing, prestigious position at a top law firm, and there were a lot of financial changes that came with that. So because I had an Esquire behind my name and a JD to boot, my family members, my friends, a lot of people around me wanted to borrow money, which was the same sense of taking my money because they were never going to give it back. And I didn't know how to say no because at that point I was the only one who made it. And I felt guilty. And on top of that, I didn't necessarily know how to budget because I didn't grow up budgeting. Oftentimes there was more month than money. So I was engaging this space, not knowing how to say no when someone said, I need money to pay for the rent. I need money to pay for a car note. Let me hold $1. And then on top of that, emotional boundaries. Now, when you're a lawyer and you come from the hood, everybody wants to talk to you about their cousin Kiki or their mama or an issue that they're going through. And I didn't know that I needed the emotional, spiritual, and physical bandwidth to really focus on my young budding career as an attorney. And I couldn't necessarily give a lot of my time at that point to making sure that I was engaging in a position that I was not called for, which was being everyone's attorney instead of the attorney for the United States. So with all of that, I frankly just didn't know how to deal. So I wanted to quit. And I don't talk to a lot of people about this because you're not supposed to say you want to quit being an attorney, you want to quit this prestigious job, but I wanted to quit. I was tired. I was exhausted. I didn't know how to balance being the only person who looked like me in the spaces and the places I navigated. And I didn't know how to really cultivate the tools to grapple with my significantly changing identity in that space. And if you know anything about me, when I quit, I quit. I'm a hustler. So I was on a roll to become anything but an attorney. I applied for diversity manager positions. I applied for diversity consultant positions. I applied for communications positions. I did everything I could. And my networking and hustle was so good that I ended up at an interview with a huge tech company to become a diversity and inclusion manager, also known as Facebook. So I'm sitting in this interview, and the woman is asking me, she's looking at my resume and asking me, so why do you want to be at Facebook? And I talk about the 2 billion active users. I talk about the diversity of the consumer population. And I say, I want to, push forward Facebook's agenda to have their employees look as diverse as their consumers. She smiles and she says, okay, I see you, okay. And then she looks at my resume again and says, but you're an attorney. And I say, yeah, okay. But I can utilize my skill sets and my argumentation skills and my writing and research to push forward this agenda. And she says, okay, great. I see that. I can see the connection, but you're an attorney. And I say, yeah. And I, say something. I, find words. And then she says it a third time. She says, okay, but you're an attorney. Now let's back up for a second. So before I interview with anyone, I research them. I will know you, I will know your social media, I will know your Instagram handle. And I found out that we shared the same faith. We're both Christian. So let's go back into the interview. The third time she asks or says, I'm an attorney, I say, yeah, but I've been really praying about this. And I really think that God wants me in this diversity and inclusion position. And then she says, oh, you talk to God. She says, let me tell you what God told me to tell you. I'm like, you're Facebook. You're not supposed to know God. But anyways, she says, I need you to keep going. And then I cry. And she says, because there's a purpose assigned to your life. It's not coincidence that you are the first in your family to overcome obstacles that others couldn't overcome. It's not coincidence that you were chosen to break generational cycles and generational curses, including the curses of poverty and lack. It's not coincidence. So I need you to keep going. I know it's scary. I know you're the only one who looks like you in these spaces. I know you're the only one that comes from these places. But before you were even born, there was a destiny assigned to your life. There's a purpose. So I need you to keep going and understand that you'll have a community with you every step of the way. Can you do that? And I was like, I don't really want to, but I will. So I didn't get the job. But after that, I took a few weeks to really reflect on what it looked like for Ruky Tijani to stand in her authenticity and become a lawyer. Not Ruky acting like the others, but Ruky from New York. Ruky who grew up in a single-parent household. Ruky who was on Section 8 housing. Ruky who grew up on food stamps. What did that actually look like? And I started making a concerted effort to step into my authenticity and put Ruky Tijani from New York, from Projects of Brooklyn, New York, with Esquire and JD. And one of the first things I did was really engage in an amazing self-care journey, because I didn't grow up understanding what self-care really looked like. And what it looked like for me was getting up super early, exercising, reading the Bible, but also reading books that helped me in my career, helped me understand how to write. I read books about academic legal writing. I talked to mentors and sponsors and tutors and simply told them, I don't know what I don't know. Help me. And I really became intentional about becoming this full-fledged, holistic person that was from a space that wasn't necessarily represented in the places I navigated, but fully embracing every single part of my purpose. And I remember a few months after the talk with the Facebook interviewer, putting on LinkedIn that I also spearheaded a program called the Summer Extern Speaker Series when I was a clerk in the Eastern District. And it was an amazing initiative, an opportunity to introduce the externs to the myriad facets of the law, including Ninth Circuit judges and federal district clerks and federal judges and state Supreme Court justices. And I started to realize that the practice of law for me was not simply being in the room, poring over legal documents and looking at facts and analyzing them and assessing them under the precedent, but it was also bringing access to justice for people who came from the same background as I did. So I remember writing about that on my LinkedIn and someone reaching out to me, and I eventually snagged a job at the top litigation firm in the country. So I'm currently there, and I work in the Silicon Valley office. So as I was going in my job, I started in 2017, this nagging feeling of continuing to bring my authenticity to light kept on coming at me, was still in me. So a few months later, I started the First Generation Purpose Project, again, which is an amazing initiative designed to help first-generation professionals, entrepreneurs, thinkers, and doers navigate life and career by utilizing the grit and tenacity that's already in them, in us. And we do this through 4 different ways. The first one is through a speaker series, which is what I'm doing with you right now. The second one is an intellectual property protection project, which is rolling out next year, where we help first-generation entrepreneurs and small business owners protect their intellectual property through trademarking. The third one is through one-on-one consulting with first-generation rock stars and universities and organizations. And the fourth one is creating community through social media. And one of the things that I talk about a lot through my speaker series is the importance of investing in yourself. Because as first-generation professionals, if you're anything like me, we come from a background of giving. We give to our families, we give to our communities, we give time, money, energy, and effort, oftentimes at our detriment. So I really want to put the first-generation rock star back in the center of their narrative and have them understand that by investing in themselves, they're actually fulfilling a purpose that allows everyone around them to benefit. So the 7 ways that I talk about investing in yourself include the following. The first one is self-care. The second one is putting together an amazing LinkedIn account that embraces your true authenticity and your story. The third one is career coaching. The fourth one is forming financial boundaries and budgeting. The fifth one is going on trips that simply intrigue you. The seventh one is having a therapist and engaging in mental health. And the seventh one is really understanding what it looks like to simply step in your authenticity. And through these different steps and through these different ways, my hope for you is that you fully take the time to invest in yourself and invest in your purpose. Because just like the interviewer told me when I wanted to quit, there's a purpose assigned to your life. It's not coincidence that you were the first one to overcome barriers and challenges that others in your family did not happen to overcome. So keep on moving forward. As you can see, there's a community with you. You got this, because it's your first generation purpose. Thank you.